He was hunched down in the seat, trying to be as inconspicuous as possible. "Sit up, silly. You look perfectly normal," Laura said, laughing to herself as she looked at him. "I feel ridiculous." Wayne wasn't feeling as light-hearted as his girlfriend. "Well, you look fine. No one would know that you weren't what you appear to be." Of that, Laura was confident. He sat up a little straighter in the seat but still felt very self-conscious. Wayne avoided eye contact with the people that passed Laura as she stayed well within the speed limit as she always did. Out here on the causeway, everyone speeded, everyone but Laura. The late afternoon's light blue sky was cloudless. It had been a cool afternoon and Wayne was thankful. He didn't want it any warmer, he was sweating already. The Tampa Bay weather had been unseasonably warm even for Florida, and late October was when it should begin to cool off a little. Wayne sat there in a daze, pondering how this whole thing had begun. Wayne couldn't believe it. "You've lived in Clearwater all your life and you've never been to Guavaween?" "No, never." Laura didn't think that was so shocking. "I just never cared to go before." "So what do you think? Can we come up with a costume to win the $1,000 prize?" He thought it would be fun and they could both use the money. Laura had been giving the idea a lot of thought since Wayne had first brought up the idea a week ago. It would take a really outrageous costume. Lots of people go to great lengths to win that prize. "Come on, Laura, we can do it. How far would you be willing to go?" Laura had an idea in mind, but she wasn't sure Wayne would go along. "Whatever it takes, sweetheart." Wayne moved over closer to her on the couch and kissed her passionately. When they tore themselves away from each other after a moment, Laura suggested her idea. "What would you think of going as a famous celebrity? It would have to be someone pretty outrageous to get the attention of the judges." "Whom did you have in mind?" Laura had thought of this person from the moment he suggested the idea. Wayne would be perfect for the part. He was short and very slender. He even had the facial structure, with a little accenting. LaToya Jackson. She watched for his reaction. The idea of making him up was exciting and a challenge. He screwed up his face, questioning, "LaToya Jackson, are you kidding?" Laura let her excitement burst forth. "No, Wayne. I've been thinking about it and we can do it. With a little trim and styling on that long black hair of yours and some makeup, I know I can make you look just like her." "But..." Laura was not about to let him interrupt until she was done. "You're slender enough and you have nice legs. We'd be a cinch to fool the judges. I know we would win." He was amazed at her enthusiasm. She really wanted him to do this. Normally, Wayne would do anything to please Laura, but this was scary. "Laura, I don't know how to act like a girl. I'd never be able to convince anyone that I was one, much less someone like LaToya." That wasn't entirely true. Wayne had grown up in a house full of women and he had more than a vague idea of how girls behaved. His dad had died when he was only 7 and he had been raised by his mother and 3 older sisters. His Aunt Mary, his mother's sister, had moved in to help his mom pay the bills. He had grown up under a totally female influence. Wayne had wasted no time in escaping as soon as he was out of high school. Leaving Maryland to come to school in Florida had been a big step for him, but he took it willingly. He was no worse for having been raised by so many women, but there were a lot of times he wished it had been different for him. He was made to play lots of games by his older sisters, and some of them he remembered none too fondly. Too often they pretended he was a little sister and dressed him up for fun, their fun, not his. The games included him having to pretend he was a girl, sometimes all day. He would have been made to play more often if he hadn't eventually learned to hide so well. As his sisters got older, they lost interest in their little brother as a toy. Wayne was thankful when they moved on to boyfriends. To this day, they reminisce about how much fun they had with him. "Come on, Wayne, you can do it. Besides, I'll be right there with you." The more Laura looked at him, the more convinced she became that it would work. Wayne reluctantly caved into her. "All right, Laura, if it will make you happy." He wasn't thrilled with the idea. She jumped up on his lap and began lavishing him with affection. They gave no more thought that night to anything but their desire for each other. Laura couldn't concentrate on her classes the next day, and as soon as she was done, she started gathering the things she would need for Wayne. She didn't want to waste any time preparing him. He was coming over to her place again that evening, and she wanted to be ready for him. She hardly gave him a chance to get in the door. "Take off your sneakers and socks and put these on." Laura handed him the black 2.5-inch heels she had bought him that afternoon. The store had given her several pair of pads, the little stocking-like slip-ons that girls used when trying on shoes. "The party's still 3 days off, Laura. Why do I have to wear these now? I want you to get used to them between now and Saturday. We're going to have to do a lot of walking, and I want you to feel as comfortable in them as you can." Heels as high as those were difficult enough to get around in for the average girl who is used to heels. She knew he'd need practice. Laura spent the whole evening showing Wayne how to walk, stand, and sit like a girl in a short skirt. When he finally left at 11, his feet were killing him. "Do we have to do this every day until Saturday?" Standing at the door, she reached up and kissed him. "Yes, sweetheart. You want to win that prize, don't you?" He wasn't so sure he did anymore, but Laura did. "Yes, lover." Laura only had the one class on Thursday, and she headed for the mall as soon as she was free. She knew Frederick's would have the sort of push-up bustier she was looking for, and she found a really pretty lace-trimmed one in black. The black lace panties she picked were also very pretty with their matching lace trim. She bought him a couple of different pair, unsure which would look best on Wayne. Frederick's was also the place to sexy mesh stockings. Laura just couldn't resist getting them for Wayne. Finding the right dress for him to wear was not so easy. Laura looked at dozens of dresses before she decided on the high-necked red one. While it was not too revealing, it was sexy enough. The short skirt of the dress flared just enough, and Wayne's narrow shoulders would allow him to get away with going sleeveless. Laura couldn't wait to dress him in the outfit. It took Laura most of the afternoon, and she got home just as Wayne got there. Laura had told him to come over early and she'd make him dinner. That would give them more time to practice. Wayne stood waiting outside the dorm. He watched her drive up and gather her packages from the car. "Now, what did you buy?" he asked skeptically. The whole idea of him dressing up as a girl unnerved him. "Just a few little things. I'll show you inside." With a grin she added, "Unless, of course, you want me to show you out here." Wayne laughed nervously. "Inside will be just fine." She had him follow her into the bedroom, and she laid the things out on the bed. He looked shocked when he saw it all. "Don't be such a baby. Let's see how it looks on you." He turned to Laura with a pitiful look. "Do I have to wear that?" "If we want to win, you do. Remember, the costume has to be convincing." Laura stroked his cheek. Memories of life at home, with his sisters, came flooding back to him. Laura was excited and anxious about transforming him. She reached behind his head and started to take out the rubber band he used to pull his hair into a ponytail. Wayne started to pull away. "What are you doing? Stop fussing. I just want to see what I'm going to have to do with your hair." He didn't resist after that. He let her untie his hair and brush it out. Laura loved his long hair. I was so thick and shiny. This is going to be great, she remarked as she toyed with different ways to do his hair. She had to stop herself. It wasn't the time for that yet. Now go in the bathroom and get undressed. She took one of the pairs of panties off the bed and handed them to him. Slip these on so I can see how they look on you. I'm not sure they're going to be enough. They were so delicate. Laura had seen him in his underwear, she had seen him naked, but she had never seen him in girls' panties. He was nervous about coming out of the bathroom. From behind the bathroom door he said, I feel awfully foolish, Laura. Just come out and show me how you look. I'm not going to laugh. She was getting a little impatient and it showed in her voice. Wayne responded to her obvious annoyance with him. This won't do, Wayne. His penis bulged in the thin lacy panties. I could have told you that. We really should forget the whole idea? Laura was not about to give up so easily. Never mind. I'll think of something. He stood there, uneasily, while she went through her drawers looking for something that would help. She finally gave up, frustrated. I just don't have anything you can wear that will hold you. Then it dawned on her. I've got it. She raced into the bathroom and found what she wanted under the sink. Back in the bedroom, she held up a wide roll of cloth medical tape. Wayne cringed. Do you know what that stuff does when you peel it off hair? The solution seemed simple enough to Laura. Then we'll just have to shave you. Come on into the bathroom. This whole thing was going too far. I don't know, Laura. Wayne, who else is going to know but me? Laura took a new razor out of the package in the drawer. She handed him her shaving lotion. Now lather up and stop making such a fuss. Laura lined the center of the 2-inch tape, after tapering it to fit between his legs. A small hole in the middle, also clear of gauze, was where he attached the head of his penis so it wouldn't move and pinch. Also, so he could pee comfortably. He would have to sit to go to the bathroom, but that was fine. It was actually more natural as far as Laura was concerned. You want me to wear this until Saturday? Sure, that way you'll get used to it, and if we need to adjust or trim it, we'll know. It's only for a day, Wayne. He wasn't happy about it, but he agreed. Now put the panties back on and let's see how they look now. Laura was thrilled. He looked perfectly natural. Wayne felt more foolish than ever. His thoughts drifted back to when his sisters used to make him dress up, and it was disturbing. Laura thought at first that the dark stockings she had bought him would be enough to hide his light leg hair, but now she decided that it would have to go too. While he sat on the toilet, she generously spread her dilapidatory cream on his legs, even up to his hips where the hair didn't grow. If it were anyone but Laura who wanted him to do this, he would have been off and running. You know, it's a good thing I'm crazy about you. He just sat there and let her do it. It's a good thing you don't have a hairy chest. Laura remarked with an adoring grin as she plucked the dozen or so hairs he had around his nipples as the cream did its thing on his legs. Are my arms all right, or are you going to do them too? Wayne's tone was just a touch sarcastic. Laura understood that he felt weird about her doing all this to him, so she didn't get upset. No, your arms are fine. Your hair is so light there that you'll be all right. The cream had surely done its job by now, Laura decided. Climb in the shower and rinse off the cream, Wayne. I'll put some lotion on your legs when you've dried off. It'll make them feel less irritated and smoother. He tore a run in the first pair of stockings she had him try to put on. Fortunately, Laura had the foresight to give him an old pair of hers to try on first. The second pair was a good pair of hers, not the new black ones, but he managed to get them on without a run. You really have nice legs, Wayne. They're nice and slender, even your thighs. No one would be able to tell by looking at them that he was a guy. She only hoped that everything else she was going to do looked as convincing. Laura intentionally had taken the garter straps off the bustier when he wasn't looking. There was no need in giving him anything else to worry about tonight. She handed him the long line bra. "Let's get this on and see how it fits." He looked at the black stretch garment. "I'm supposed to wear this out in public?" "You'll have your dress on over it. Don't worry." Laura tried to reassure him. He'd need to wear the bustier to give him the figure he'd need to fit into the dress. Wayne picked up the sexy thing from the bed and held it at arm's length. "I don't know about this." "Oh, come on. Don't be such a baby." Laura took the garment from him and put it around him. Stepping behind him, she fed the lacing through the eyelets and pulled each successively tighter as she worked her way down to his waist. "Let me know if I'm making this too tight," she told him as she tugged firmly at the strings. It wasn't so bad when she first began, but when she got down to his waist he could hardly breathe. "This isn't going to work. It's way too tight." Laura knew he was complaining because he didn't want to wear it. She hadn't pulled it all that tight. "Just give yourself a few minutes to get used to it," she insisted. Wayne could tell by her tone that it was useless to argue. It really wasn't that hard to breathe. Laura tied off the lacing and came around to get a look at him. The padding hidden inside the cups helped to shape him somewhat, pushing up his chest. The stretch material and boning of the bustier did shape him well, giving him a nice little waistline, making his narrow hips more prominent. Still, it wasn't convincing enough. He had a semblance of breasts, but not nearly enough. Wayne saw that she wasn't satisfied. "I told you this wouldn't work. We're not done yet." She had one last trick up her sleeve. Wayne didn't like the sound of that. She'd been just about ready to check out at Frederick's when she noticed the silicone breast enhancers by the checkout. Laura took them from the bag on the bed. "Let's try these," she remarked as she walked back to him. He felt really weird as she pushed and pulled at his chest as she tucked the strange-feeling pads of silicone into the cups of the bustier. Laura stood back and gave him a once-over. The breast enhancers made all the difference in the world. "That really does the trick. You look terrific. I'm really happy with it." "How does it feel?" "It feels really strange," Wayne said, starting down at what looked like women's breasts, his breasts. "Take a deep breath for me." He did as she told him and nothing popped as he thought it would. "It's okay, I guess. You're doing wonderfully, Wayne. Let's leave it at that tonight." Laura was very pleased. "I can take it off now?" He reached around behind to undo the hooks and back. "No, you can't take it off," she said, chiding him as if he were a child. "Just leave it on and get used to it. Here, slip your shoes on too." He put on the shoes and looked at himself in the mirror. "Are you sure you can make me look enough like a girl to get away with this?" "Trust me, Wayne." She turned and headed for the kitchen. "Come on, you can help me get dinner ready." Wayne endured the next day with the tape between his legs. They trimmed it that afternoon, where it chafed him. Laura suggested that Wayne stay with her Friday night so that she could get a head start on his hair. She didn't like leaving it till Saturday morning. "You know guys aren't allowed in the dorm after 11, if we got caught we'd both get in trouble." "That's okay, we'll fix it so that no one will know." Laura's mind was already made up and there was no changing it. After dinner she had him take off everything but the panties. In one of her bathrobes she had him sit on the edge of the tub while she trimmed his hair in soft layers. She cut only his split ends from his gorgeous long hair. When she finished trimming it, it lay between 5 and 6 inches past his shoulders. She rolled his hair with dozens of little rollers. When that was done, she applied a waving lotion and waited until it saturated his hair. It would wash out by the end of the weekend. The instructions said it would last through a dozen washes and they could easily take care of it on Sunday. His hair would be back to normal on Monday. When his hair was ready, she used the neutralizer on it and in minutes the perm smell that Wayne complained about was almost gone and the curls fell naturally into place. Now all we have to do in the morning is use my hot rollers to style it. It took the perm beautifully and Laura was a little worried that it might take more than the recommended number of washes to get it to relax. His hair took the perm too well, she worried. No point in saying anything to Wayne about it now, he was nervous enough already. It was about 9 when they finished. "What now?" Wayne asked. "I think we better practice some more. Put your shoes back on and let's work on your gestures." She had one other thought. "Listen, Wayne, just in case we have a visitor. We better have a name for you. What would you like?" He hadn't given a thought to needing a name, but now that he thought about it, she was right. "I don't know, you pick one for me, Laura." He felt strange about picking a name for himself. It can't be anything even vaguely masculine or people might look at you and wonder. It has to be definitely feminine, to throw people off immediately. "How about Cheryl?" she said, asking. Wayne just shrugged his shoulders. Laura understood that it made him feel awkward to pick a feminine name for himself, so she decided for him. "Cheryl it is then. In order to get used to it, I'm going to call you that from now on, or at least until after tomorrow." "Okay?" Laura suggested enthusiastically. She was really enjoying herself. "Fine, sure." He was not particularly enthusiastic. He was beginning to look really believable and Laura was having fun. She worried that Wayne was nervous, but it wasn't going to help for her to act the same way. If she stayed upbeat, then maybe he wouldn't be so depressed. "Let's get to work, Cheryl." She dressed him in only the panties and bustier. She insisted he wear his heel, to get as much practice walking as possible. Laura worked on him until almost 1 when they fell asleep in each other's arms. They were too tired to fool around even if Wayne didn't have the tape on, tucking him securely away. They were woken at about 7 by an urgent knock on the door. Wayne was instantly awake, realizing where he was on the verge of panic. Laura was also awake and realized the need for quick action. She grabbed for her bra on the floor in front of the dresser. "Put this on quickly and stuff your socks in them. Go in the bathroom and do it, there's a robe in there, put it on." Laura was throwing the rest of Wayne's clothes under the bed. When Laura opened the door, only seconds later, Wayne was in the bathroom. Mrs. Robertson nearly filled the doorway, such was her girth. "Laura, your boyfriend's car is in a guest space out front." "He's not here, is he?" She craned her neck, looking past Laura, scanning the room. Laura was a little nervous. "No, Mrs. Robertson." "Of course not." "You don't mind if I step inside, do you, Laura?" It was less of a question than a command. Laura stepped aside for the woman to enter. She heard the toilet flush in the bathroom. So did Mrs. Robertson. "And who is using your bathroom?" The woman looked as she just solved the crime of the century. Laura was ready. She had given thought to just this sort of thing happening, but it was last night that she expected it. "Wayne's sister is in town and she couldn't stay with him in his dorm, so I suggested she spend the night with me. Wayne let her use his car. That's why his car is here." Perfectly executed. Laura called out, "Cheryl, if you're done in there, there's someone I want you to meet." Mrs. Robertson seemed a little disappointed by Laura's explanation. Wayne was terrified, but he knew he had to come out, so, with the bra quickly stuffed and wearing only Laura's short robe, he stepped out of the bathroom into the bedroom and looked around the corner. His ass stuck out beneath the red polyester material. "Who is it, Laura?" He did his best to disguise his voice, to try to sound like a girl. When he saw the huge woman, he smiled. "Oh, hello." Laura was amazed that he sounded the way he did, so convincing. She recovered quickly. "Cheryl, this is Mrs. Robertson. She's our house mother." Still smiling, Wayne said, "Hello, Mrs. Robertson. It's nice to meet you." Now the woman felt foolish for having intruded and thinking that Laura would allow her boyfriend to spend the night. "Hello, dear." Looking at the two girls, she said, "I'm so sorry for getting you girls up so early on a Saturday. I'll leave you now." To Laura she remarked, "I'm so sorry for mistrusting you." "That's all right, Mrs. Robertson. I know that you're just looking out for us. Goodbye." Laura breathed a sigh of relief as she closed the door behind her. She turned to Wayne. "You were terrific. That voice was perfect. Where did you get that from?" "My sisters and I used to play a game. They taught me." He didn't care to explain any further. "I'd never have known it was you. That was perfect." And that smile really threw her off too. "Your sisters taught you to sound like that?" Wayne just nodded. For the first time, Laura really noticed his hair. It had still been a little wet when they went to bed, but now, dry, it was full and very soft looking. It was a mess, of course, but Laura could see the potential of a really pretty set. "Let's get showers, then do something with your hair. I'm ready for some breakfast." Laura put in her hot rollers while Wayne stared at himself in the bathroom mirror. His hair had always been long but always straight and flat. He got a sick feeling in his stomach as Laura set it for him. He didn't eat any breakfast, but Laura had a ravenous appetite. With the curlers removed, it brushed out easily. It was so full it looked like he'd grown more hair overnight. It lay over his shoulders in big soft curls. "You look fantastic." Laura marveled at his reflection in the mirror. He still had on the robe and bra, just in case they had any other surprise visitors. Wayne couldn't seem to muster the same enthusiasm. He did have to admit, reluctantly, "You really changed me. It does look attractive for a girl's hairstyle. Just wait until I'm done with you. You're going to be adorable." Seeing how fantastic his hair looked inspired Laura to want to complete his transformation. "I want to make you up. I'm still not sure that I have everything we'll need, so I want to experiment." He was her guinea pig and he knew it. He would have to just sit there and let her do what she wanted. Laura brushed his cheek. "When did you shave last?" "Thursday afternoon, before I came over for dinner." "You hardly have any stubble." Laura was surprised. "My father's mother, my grandmother, was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. I'm told it's her blood in me. That's why I have so little body hair and my beard grows so slow. It would take me forever to grow a beard." He'd tried, without success. "That's good. Why don't you go ahead and shave anyway, just to get rid of the little bit of stubble you do have? Then we'll get started." He already had a very nice, even complexion, but the foundation smoothed it to perfection. She was going to leave his eyebrows alone but decided to narrow them just a little. "You won't even be able to tell I did it," she assured him. With him turned away from the mirror, Laura shaped them just enough so that they no longer looked like guys' eyebrows. She trimmed them short. They arched high over the outside of his eyes. I thought you said you were only going to shape them a little. Wayne was worried what he'd look like when this was all over. They wouldn't grow back quickly. We'll just fill them in with a little eyeliner, no one will notice. Laura hoped she was right, she did go a little overboard. Wayne seemed to calm down after her assurances and she resumed. Black eyeliner accented his big brown eyes. Laura used light shades of eyeshadow to bring out his deep-set eyes. His long lashes took the mascara beautifully and his lashes curled nicely. He had gorgeous eyes now. Perhaps it was the Indian blood that had given him the high cheekbones, the blush highlighted them marvelously. Wayne's upper lip had a nice full shape but his lower needed to be made to look fuller, puffier with lip liner. With his slightly dark coloring, the deep red lipstick looked all wrong. She tried a shade of her own, a deep pink, and that looked much better on him. The girl who sat in front of Laura now was really quite pretty. Laura was not really surprised, it was a quality of his that she had liked from the first time she saw him in literature class. She thought of it as a reflection of his soul. For the first time since he had seen his shapely eyebrows, Laura let him look in the mirror. What do you think, Cheryl? Wayne was amazed at his reflection. He didn't respond right away. He turned his head a little to the left, then a little to the right, studying himself. It's hard to believe it's really me. He turned and looked at Laura. You knew all along that you could do it, didn't you? You've always had a pretty face. That's one of the things that I love about you. She started to reach out and kiss him then stopped. Don't want to ruin your lipstick. She remembered and laughed. They both did and Wayne felt some of the tension drain from him. It was time to get a look at the finished product. Laura took the outfit out again. Let's see how you look in the whole outfit. Wayne pulled on the black, lace-trimmed, back-seam stockings. Laura helped him get the seams straight and back. The bustier was next. After they pushed and tugged at the stuffing, getting it just right, only his own skin formed the natural-looking breasts that stuck out above the cups. Wayne was a little disturbed at having to wear the garters. Are these really necessary, Laura? They are if you want to look convincing. We've come this far, Wayne, I mean Cheryl. Let's just finish it and see how you look. He had no will to resist her smile. Laura hooked his garter to the bustier and his stockings. The moment of truth came and Laura helped him as he stepped into his sexy red dress. It fit him like a dream when she zipped him up the back. The fitted waist fit him beautifully with the bustier nipping his waist. The little flared skirt of the dress looked adorable, especially with the lace trim at the top of his stocking showing from underneath. He looked at himself in her full-length mirror. I look like a cheap hooker. He felt ridiculous. Yes, it's wonderful, isn't it? What do you mean wonderful? Just listen to yourself. You look in the mirror and all you see is a girl who looks like a hooker. You don't see a guy, dressed up as a girl who looks like a cheap hooker. It's wonderful. Laura beamed with delight. Wayne couldn't help himself, his smile turned into a laugh. If you say so. After a moment though, as he stared into the mirror at himself, his mood dimmed. What's wrong? The change in his mood was unescapable. I can't go walking around the streets looking like this. Over at Guavaween is one thing, but I have to get there first. Do you have some kind of jacket I can use to cove up a little on the way there? Laura had to agree. Let me take a look. She found what she was looking for in a large brown box in the back of the closet. Here, how's this? It was a black leatherette jacket. There was no way to close the front, but at least it covered him. On Laura it would have been longer, but on Wayne it only came to about halfway down the short skirt. It helps, thanks. The remainder of the morning and early afternoon were spent on little details. He undressed and Laura applied the fake nails she had bought for him and did his toenails in the same bright red nail polish. It took Wayne a little while to get used to the long nails. Laura had searched far and wide to locate just the right earrings for him. It had not been easy to find a pair that were clip-ons in a style to go with the outfit. Gaudy earrings are hard to find in clip-ons. Wayne came out of his daydream as Laura slammed on her brakes on the off-ramp. They were very near their destination. Finding a parking place was not easy. Laura finally squeezed her little escort into a spot. "Are you ready, Cheryl?" She wanted to laugh at the sound of his feminine name, looking at him, looking so convincing sitting there. In his high voice Wayne replied, "You just better stay close to me. I'll only be a heartbeat away, I promise." Laura squeezed his hand to assure him. Walking on pavement was a little different than walking around the apartment in the high heels. Between concentrating on walking and the self-conscious feeling as guys turned their heads to stare at him, he was completely disoriented. "You're doing beautifully, Cheryl, but you have to stop looking at your feet. Hold your head up and be confident." They arrived amidst huge crowds, just in time for the kickoff parade. As the sun set, the streets were illuminated by the elaborate lighting that had been put up just for the celebration. People in all sorts of wild costumes filled the streets. Large floats, supporting banners satirizing local politics and personalities were the main focus of the Stumble Parade. Laura and Wayne joined in, becoming part of festivities. Seeing so many people in costume, just enjoying themselves, Wayne began to relax. Laura in her sexy black dress stayed at his side the whole time. The street party began, officially, at about 8. There were 16 live bands over a 16-square block area. At about 8:15 they managed to somehow grab a table at one of the hastily erected sidewalk cafes. Wayne only nibbled a little off of Laura's French fries. He was much more relaxed by now, but eating wasn't something that interested him particularly. They had seen a number of guys, dressed up as girls, and Laura was quick to point them out to Wayne. "None of them look any way near as natural as you." Seeing their pathetic attempts to look the part went a long way to reassure him. At 8:45 they gave up their table and headed toward the center of the festivities, the restored cigar factory, where the contests were to be held. The crowds had swollen in the past hour to well over 200,000 people. They had to slowly weave their way between large groups of people. Wayne still got looks, but it didn't bother him so much anymore. Anyone in a reasonable outrageous costume got looks in this crowd. The old 4-story stone building came into view as they turned a corner. The crowds were rowdier here, near the center of the festivities. A large group of young kids, 30 or 40, apparently drunk, judging by their actions, pushed their way through the throng. Laura and Wayne were directly in their path and there was nowhere they could go to avoid them. In an instant, Laura was gone and Wayne was carried along on the crest of the wave of kids. Wayne never saw Laura get knocked down. He wasn't there to see her lose consciousness. A short while later, when they put her in an ambulance, he was blocks away, searching in vain for her. While she was with him, he was all right. Now he was scared and uncertain what to do. There was no way that he could find her car. He was so engrossed in himself when they parked and walked to the party, he had no idea where the car was. Even if he did, Laura had the keys. The only thing Wayne had in the shoulder bag was the lipstick and other makeup Laura gave him to bring. No wallet, no money, not even any identification. Wayne found his way back to the little cafe where they had eaten. He hoped that Laura would come there to find him. He prayed she would. He would have preferred to stay back in the shadows, but he was afraid that she might miss him if she only scanned the area. He was constantly pestered by guys that gave him no indication that they realized he was actually a guy, like them. A couple actually thought he was a hooker and propositioned him. It was embarrassing, but he was able to just ignore most of them and they went away. A few were more persistent and he had to tell them, in Cheryl's voice, to get lost. Minutes seemed like hours. Laura had told him that a watch would have been an inappropriate accessory. Wayne endured the constant harassment for as long as he could. He was sure that several hours had passed and that Laura, for some reason, was not coming. The mob of people continued to swell and all he wanted to do now was to get away from them. It would be a long walk home, but anything was better than being stranded there all night. Searching for the confidence of earlier in the evening, he started to walk. He could see the interstate in the distance, between the buildings, so he had a fair idea of where to go. Leaving the area of the party, he headed toward Columbus Avenue, a major east-west boulevard that would take him back to the Causeway and eventually to Clearwater. He didn't want to walk the main streets, dressed the way he was, so he took a parallel route, 1 block south. He walked block after block, through moderately quiet residential areas. Occasionally he'd see people, but he'd just walk fast and not look at them. Their comments did not escape him. Some were brazen and yelled at the hooker roaming their quiet neighborhood. Others just commented among themselves, thinking he couldn't hear in the cool, dry night air that carried even their whispers to his ears. Wayne had frequent doubts about walking all the way back to school. It would take him all night and some of the roads would be well light. He guessed it was about 4 miles to the Causeway. Another 5 across the bay to Clearwater, then as many as 10 more to the college. He had almost 20 miles to cover and, at about half an hour a mile, in the high heels that were already killing his feet, that was about 10 hours. If he was right and it was near midnight, he'd arrive at school at about 10 in the morning. He had been walking about 2 hours when he reached Dale Mabry, one of the main thoroughfares in Tampa. There was no way could he walk all the way home. His thoughts went back to Laura. Surely she had gone home by now, having given up the search for him. He would call her and she would come and get him. All he had to do was find someone who would give him a quarter for the call. There was very little appeal to walking down a well-lit street like this, but it was his best bet to find someone who he could beg change from. Walking all the way home was definitely not an option. With a deep breath he took his first step toward the brightly lit area to the south. Wayne was completely unaware that he was walking into one of the most notorious sections of Tampa and at prime time on a Saturday night. He didn't understand what was happening when cars slowed as they drove by him, the men behind the wheel staring then driving off. He ignored them, not even looking in their direction. The looks from the few pedestrians he passed in the first few minutes made him very uncomfortable. Most were men. Up ahead, standing in front of a liquor store, was a girl. She was obviously a hooker. He thought he was more likely to get help from a girl, even a hooker, than a man. In Cheryl's voice, as nicely as he could, he asked, "I'm in a little trouble. I got separated from my friends. Could you please let me have a quarter for a phone call? Get lost. Go earn your money like the rest of us." Wayne wasted no time moving on. About 2 blocks up, coming his way were 2 more girls. He knew he had to keep trying, but if they were hookers too, maybe he'd look further and not bother with them. "Do you recognize her?" Candy asked Phoebe. "I've never seen her before." They were about 30 feet away when the 2 girls stopped walking and just stood there, staring at him as he walked toward them. They were both taller than him, even in his high heels. From the look on the taller girl's face, Wayne was not surprised when she spoke to him. The other looked like the more timid of the 2. "Where do you think you're going, girlie?" said Candy, belligerence in her tone. He wasn't sure what to say. Thinking quickly, he replied, "Just passing through." He decided to just walk by. The smart answer annoyed her. Candy stepped in front of the girl, blocking her way. What's your name, girlie? Wayne answered nervously, Cheryl. The girl had sharp features under her heavy makeup. The dark streaks in her wild blonde hair made her look as scary as she sounded. She intimidated him easily. Under the circumstances, anyone would. You're new around here. This is our piece of the street. They didn't really control a piece of the street. Candy just wanted to scare the girl. It appeared to be working because the girl was really nervous. Doing this sort of thing gave Candy a thrill. As cool as the night air was, Wayne could feel the sweat on his back. I'm just coming from a costume party. I'm not a hooker, he said in a meek feminine voice. You sure look like one of us, girlie, Phoebe said, trying to sound as tough as Candy. The two had just smoked a rock and Phoebe was feeling pretty good. Normally, she was too timid to act this way. Candy was the stronger and Phoebe was used to going along with anything she wanted to do. She wasn't as pretty as Candy and she knew she wouldn't do as well on her own. Candy was very good to her as long as she did as she was told. Wayne decided to tell them the truth. Surely they would help him once they knew. Besides, he was tired of playing this game and he was beginning to worry that he'd never get up the nerve to talk to anyone else, especially to beg for money. In his real voice, pleadingly, he said, I'm really not what you think I am. I could really use your help. Candy and Phoebe were shocked at the voice coming from what they thought was a girl. Shit, Candy remarked in surprise. I was at Guavaween with my girlfriend, we got separated. I couldn't find her again and I have no way to get back to St. Petersburg. Would you please lend me some change to call her to come get me? There, he said it. It was embarrassing but he got it all out. Candy walked around him as he explained his dilemma, giving him a good look over. Phoebe just stood there, amazed that it was really a guy. I would never have guessed, sweetie, remarked Candy, shaking her head. Could you just let me have a quarter to make a call, please? He begged. You don't sound very sincere, Cheryl. Why don't you ask me again and see if you can be a little more convincing? Candy was enjoying this. He would do just about anything at this point. Please. Candy interrupted him. No, I want to hear you ask, in the other voice. She was a real bitch, but he didn't have much choice. He had the feeling that she wasn't going to let him just walk away if he didn't do what she said, and she certainly had the upper hand. Please, please help me. It had been a pretty quiet night so far and they had nothing else to do. Candy had an idea for a way to have a little fun with this pretty boy. That was much better, Cheryl, but unfortunately, we don't have any change. Candy winked at Phoebe. But we know where a phone is that you can use for free. Phoebe didn't know what the wink meant, but she would go along with Candy. They both had change in their purses, so she must have something in mind. Wayne didn't see the wink. In his own voice he stared to thank the girl. I really... Again, Candy interrupted him. If you're going to use the phone, you're going to have to pretend to be a girl a little bit longer. I won't be able to get you into the place if they think you're some kind of fucking perverted weirdo. He thought he was done pretending. He didn't like the idea of keeping up the charade, but if it would get him to a phone, he'd do it. Wayne wondered where they'd take him. Come with us. It's just a few blocks up the street. Now Phoebe knew what Candy was going to do. What a wonderful idea, she thought to herself. Wayne walked between them. They didn't go half a block before another slow-moving car pulled up beside them. The passenger window was open, and when the driver stopped, Candy bent down and looked in at the driver. Wayne could just make him out through the reflection of the bright lights from the car lot across the street. He was a gruffy, bearded, unkempt-looking character. Get lost, you fucking bum. You couldn't pay me enough. Candy turned around and the three continued on down the street. 2 blocks down they turned at the corner and went a short way down the street to an alley behind the buildings on the next block. Candy was going to take him in the back door. They wouldn't let the 3 of them in the front. Wayne didn't mind at all being off the busy street, especially walking with these 2, but he was curious. In Cheryl's voice he asked, "Why do we have to walk back here?" Candy pointed to the building they were approaching. "The phone they let us use is inside the back door." No point in letting him know what he was in for. Candy knocked once, hard, on the sturdy metal door. In an instant, a small panel slid to the side and a man looked out at the 3 hookers. He obviously knew the taller 2. "What do you want, Candy?" "We need to come in a minute. I need to talk to Adele about something." "All right, but don't take too long. You know Big Jim doesn't like you girls hanging around the back room." "I promise, Dave, 10 minutes tops." Candy cooed at the man in the small window. The door swung in and Candy led the way. Wayne followed while Phoebe brought up the rear. The guy had looked big in the little window, but now that Wayne stepped past him, he was huge. Dave was an ex-lineman for Miami. His knees had given out after only 1 season and he was cut from their roster. All he had done since high school had been play football. Being a bouncer in a topless bar was not nearly as glamorous, but it could be fun at times and it paid well. He was at least 6 feet 4 inches and Wayne figured he had to weigh upwards of 250 pounds. The only fat on his was a small pot belly. He looked like his face had been put through a meat grinder. He was scary looking to a 5 feet 6 inches boy in a sexy dress. But what was even scarier was the way he looked at Wayne. Candy walked halfway down the narrow, dimly lit hallway to a doorway on the right. She knocked twice before it opened. Wayne was standing behind Candy with Phoebe at his side. "Hi, Peggy. Would you tell Adele that I need to talk to her for a minute?" Wayne was a little surprised when he looked around Candy and saw the girl. She stood there with her head turned back into the room, wearing only a flimsy pair of tap pants. She looked to be about 20. She had short blonde hair, styled in a pageboy. When he was able to tear his eyes away from her young full breasts, he saw that she had deep green eyes and full inviting lips. Wayne forced himself to look away. "Sure, Candy. Come on in while I find her for you." There was no point in the 3 girls standing there in the hall, Peggy thought to herself. Thanks, Peggy. Candy liked the girl. Candy had never gotten any grief from her. Peggy was one of the nicest, most outgoing people she knew. It wasn't a very large room, about 15 by 20 feet. One whole wall was covered with lockers. Another, by dressing tables with lighted mirrors. 3 girls sat there applying makeup. They were all dressed in only lingerie, one in a teddy, the other 2 in just panties. Wayne could feel his face getting warm from embarrassment. On the wall with the dressing tables, in the corner, was a curtained doorway. A blonde in panties and a short camisole came through the curtain. Hi, Candy. What's up? Adele cast a casual glance over the girls with her friend. Hey, Phoebe. Hi, Adele. Phoebe wasn't one to say much. I just needed to talk to you for a minute, Adele. Can we go out in the hall? Sure. Adele stepped past the trio and opened the door. Candy followed, but not before she turned to Wayne and Phoebe. Just wait here a minute with Phoebe, Cheryl. I'll be back in a minute and we'll get that phone for you. Phoebe thought she knew what Candy was up to, but now she wasn't sure. She just nodded to Candy, she'd keep an eye on the boy. Feeling very uncomfortable in these surroundings, Wayne just looked around the room. The back wall was lined with padlocked wooden cabinets. There was a door in the corner that led to who knew where. The wall behind him, with the door that they had entered through, was covered with posters of men, some naked, some in sexy underwear. By the door was a bulletin board full of business cards. Next to it was a time clock and rack filled with about 30 cards. Wayne had no question what kind of place this was, but he wasn't sure why the two prostitutes had brought him here. There was obviously no phone in this room. He would just have to wait until Candy came back and took him to the phone. The waiting wasn't easy. He was scared and very self-conscious. "So, what's up?" Adele asked. "Did you notice Cheryl in there?" "Yeah, pretty little thing." "A new friend of yours?" "Phoebe and I just met Cheryl tonight." "So?" "We just thought we'd bring her over and introduce to you and the others. We thought you'd get a kick out of meeting her." "What's so special about her?" Adele didn't get it. Candy answered very casually. "She's a guy." It caught Adele completely by surprise. "You're shitting me." Candy was tickled that she shocked her friend. "No, he just came up to us, talking in a very sexy voice, and asked for money to make a phone call. When I gave him a hard time because I thought he was working the street, he broke down and told us his story." Adele thought the story was intriguing. She had only glanced at what she certainly thought was a young hooker. An attractive one at that. She couldn't wait to get a better look. Candy went on. "He broke down and told us his story. He was at Guavaween tonight and got separated from his girlfriend. He walked all the way from Eber City, looking for change to make a call to his girlfriend so she could come and pick him up. He walked all that way in those heels? Amazing, isn't it? I brought him in here, telling him there was a phone in here he could use. I thought you and some of the others might want to have a little fun with him. What do you think?" Adele didn't hesitate an instant. "Absolutely. Wait until I show him to Casey and Trudy. They just might want to keep him for a pet." "Okay if Phoebe and I hang around for a while and watch?" "All right, but you'll have to stay out of sight. Big Jim's not here tonight, but Patty is. She wouldn't go for this, and you know how she feels about you two hanging around. We'll stay out of sight, I promise." "All right, go back in and keep Cheryl busy for a few minutes while I get Casey and Trudy aside and tell them about him. They're going to love this. They have so much contempt for guys. Wait until they get a load of Cheryl." Adele had a thought. "What's his real name?" "I don't know. I didn't ask." With a smile she added. "I didn't care." Candy kept him pacified by explaining that they had to wait until the office was empty. "Adele will come in when it's okay to use it." Wayne had watched girls come and go while he stood there waiting for Candy. Most smiled and said hello, and he responded pleasantly. Some just turned their noses up at what was obviously a couple of prostitutes. It gave Wayne a strange feeling to be snubbed by them. He didn't know why they were so cold toward him, but he had to wonder if they recognized him for what he was. They didn't have to wait long before the blonde, Adele, came through the curtains followed by two other girls. They seemed to look at him strangely. His uncomfortable feeling got worse. They all knew they ran the risk of getting in trouble, leaving the floor when they were supposed to be entertaining and enticing the men to buy drinks, but this was worth it. Especially if this guy was half as convincing looking as Adele said he was. Adele walked past Wayne and the others. "Come on, Candy, bring Cheryl with you. I have the key to the back room. She can use the phone in there." There was no phone in the little storeroom, but there was privacy. Wayne fell and stepped behind Candy. He didn't know why the two new girls followed him and Phoebe. Casey and Trudy followed and closed the door behind them. Adele had been right about the boy. If no one had told them it was a guy, they would never have known. He was actually quite pretty. Wayne looked around the small room. Locked cabinets lined the walls. No phone was in sight. He looked at Candy. "Where's the phone?" He was afraid to raise his voice, surrounded now by 5 girls, all staring at him, smiling. Candy broke the insufferable silence. "Actually, Cheryl, there is no phone. I just wanted my friends to meet you. I've told them all about you." Wayne's heart was in his throat and his eyes began to fill with tears. Gone was his feminine voice as he pleaded. "Please let me leave, I just want to go home. We'll let you make your call, Cheryl, but first we're going to have a little fun." Casey told him matter-of-factly. Wayne turned to look at the girl who spoke. She was about his height and very beautiful. Long auburn curls fell over her shoulders to just below her breasts. She had a sweet, innocent look with her big brown eyes and wide red lips. In her panties and camisole he could see her perfect figure. Her full rounded breasts were nicely in proportion to her narrow waist and slim hips. "Go along with us for a few hours and you can leave with your girlfriend. Or, if you prefer, you can leave now, but we'll just relieve you of a few things," Trudy offered. It was the short-haired blonde with long bangs that covered one eye that made the offer. There was no hint of her only teasing on her serious face. The full sensuous lips showed no hint of a smile. She was not quite as voluptuous as the first girl that spoke, but she was certainly as beautiful. Adele made Trudy's point clearer. "We'll just borrow your pretty little dress for a while." Candy and Phoebe were protecting the sole door from the room. He couldn't run. There was no way he could get away from all 5 of them. He was trapped. Wayne folded his arms across his chest, nervously. "What do you want from me?" Wayne asked nervously. "Listen, you sissy bitch," Casey said angrily. "Don't give us any shit." Wayne had nowhere to turn, nowhere to go. He had to cooperate if he was going to get away from there. "What do you want me to do?" The fear in his voice was obvious. "That's more like it, Cheryl." That was what Adele wanted to hear. It wasn't often that they found a guy that would be so delightfully submissive, and now they had one in drag to play with. The best part is that he wasn't even gay or a transvestite. Adele introduced him to Casey and Trudy, neither of who had the patience for pleasantries. "Let's first get you out of that dress. I want to see what we have to work with." Trudy went around behind him and pulled down his zipper. He could only stand there and let them undress him. His heart was being pushed up his throat by his churning stomach. Casey pulled the dress off his shoulders and pulled it down, letting it drop to the floor. Adele scooped it up when he stepped out of it. He stood there in his bustier, panties and stockings under their critical gazes. "How did your girlfriend give you such full breasts, Cheryl?" Casey asked. They looked very real. "It's just padding." He didn't look up from the floor at Casey. "We'll just have to leave him like this," Trudy told the others. They all agreed. "Too bad though. If he had falsies, we could get rid of that bulky bustier and he could wear one of your camisoles, Trudy." Adele thought he would have looked adorable that way. Wayne was mortified. He'd never been more embarrassed in his life. The idea gave Trudy something to think about. Looking at him dressed this way, Candy had a question. "Where's his dick? There's not even a bulge in the panties." No one else had given it a thought. They all looked closer. "Tape," Laura taped it back. Telling them was better than having them look for themselves. Smart girl, your girlfriend. She did quite a number on you. Casey admired her thoroughness. One of us better go talk to Patty. Trudy suggested. I'll do it, offered Adele. I can handle her. She already knew the story she would tell her. Candy, would you and Phoebe hang around in here with Cheryl for a few minutes? Casey and Trudy have to get back to work before they get in trouble. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Wayne heard the lock turn on the door when they were gone. Adele had left with his dress. He had no choice but to just stand there, half naked and terrified. What were they planning to do with him? Outside, they talked. Don't say anything to the others just yet, Adele suggested. No, they'd be all over him for the rest of the night. Casey agreed. We can tell them at quitting time, later. Trudy couldn't wait to tell Lindsay, Sue and Peggy. Candy and Phoebe whispered between themselves, laughing softly when they looked his way. He had no desire to talk to them. He would just as soon beat the crap out of them, but that would only bring down the rage of the others on him. Even if he could get away now, he couldn't go out on the street. Not like this. There was a small cot in the corner of the room. He went over and sat down to wait for Adele to return and for his harassment to continue. He thought he'd figured out what they had in mind for him. Just the thought of parading around in what he was wearing almost made him want to vomit. She's new in town and my cousin has looked everywhere for work. If you'd just let her wait tables for tips, it would be a big favor to me. Is she attractive? Asked the boss's wife, Patty. She's really cute and really nice. She's waited tables before. Adele didn't know she was telling the truth. How does she feel about working in lingerie? Cheryl's a little nervous, but I'm sure she'll be fine. Patty thought a moment. She knew what it was like for young girls working in a topless club for the first time. She had sympathy for them. She'd been in the same situation when she started out, years ago. All right, Adele. She can wait tables tonight. If she does well enough, maybe we can audition her for the floor. We might even work her into full-time. It wasn't a bad living for a young girl, desperate for money. This was more that Adele could have hoped for. Patty had a heart as big as gold for working girls. Adele started thinking how they could turn this into even more fun. There were some details to work out, but it was possible. Have you ever waited on tables? Wayne looked up from the cot when Adele returned. He knew this was coming. He could taste the bile in his throat as he answered. A little. It was not entirely the truth. He had been waiting tables for 1.5 years now. Adele was thrilled. Great. Just wait here while I go get my makeup case. We need to fix you up a little. Candy and Phoebe exchanged glances and grins. It took Adele only about 5 minutes to redo Wayne's makeup. The darker lipstick and brighter eyeshadows made him look older and, as far as he was concerned, trashier. He finally had to speak up. I can't do this. He pleaded. Adele stopped for a moment, setting down the eyeliner. Like I said before, Cheryl, you don't have to do this. You can walk out the door if you want, but you'll walk out just the way you are. She grinned at the boy, knowing she wasn't giving him a choice. When she finished touching up his makeup, Wayne followed Adele from the storeroom to the curtained doorway, hesitating there. Adele turned back to him. We're going to go through this door, out into the bar. You can keep on going, right out the front door if you want to, or you can spend a couple of hours waiting tables, pretending to be Cheryl for a little longer. It's up to you. Adele knew she wasn't giving him much of a choice. That was the idea after all. The deep breathing that had served to help calm him earlier didn't work now. Through the curtain, to the left, were 4 steps that Adele explained lead to the stage. Straight ahead was a second curtained doorway. This way to the bar, sweetie. Wayne followed, brushing past 2 girls coming through, heading for the dressing room. He only smiled at them. One returned his smile, the other ignored him. Don't worry about her. She's just jealous because you're so young and pretty. Adele chuckled. Wayne couldn't appreciate her sarcastic humor. He kept his eyes straight ahead, not letting his gaze connect with the stares from the men, young and old, who turned to stare at the new girl. He followed Adele to the partitioned-off section of the bar that was reserved for the waitresses. It was a relatively quiet night, so Connie, the bartender, didn't understand why Patty was putting on a new girl. She decided to keep quiet, it was none of her business. Connie, this is Cheryl. Patty's going to let her wait tables tonight, kind of on a trial basis. Connie looked from Adele to the new girl. Hi, Cheryl. Nice to meet you. Adele obviously hadn't told this girl his secret. That was fine, it was easier to play along than to have her know. Hi. He knew that he'd have to play the part if he was going to get out of there unscathed, but trying to appear cheerful was not going to be easy. This was a pleasant change, Connie thought to herself. Most of the girls Big Jim hired were bold and pushy. Cheryl wasn't like that at all. She was obviously nervous. Connie just hoped she was confident enough to do this kind of work. The guys could get pretty pushy sometimes. Have you waited tables before, Cheryl? Just food. He answered. Connie was relieved that she had at least had some experience. She pulled a tray out from behind the bar. Tina and Barbara are covering all 4 sections tonight because it's a little slow. Why don't you take section 2? It's the quietest section tonight. Connie pointed out the tables that she would be responsible for. For the first time since they walked into the room, Wayne looked around the large room. A raised horseshoe dance floor stood adjacent to the bar with low chairs outlining it. Hardly a seat was empty. There were men in 3-piece suits and guys in dirty t-shirts and jeans sitting shoulder to shoulder. To the left of the dance floor was a raised, glass-enclosed disc jockey's booth. A girl wearing only a bra and panties worked the booth. What was obviously the entrance to the club was to the left of her. Wayne brought his gaze back to the right as Connie pointed out his tables. To the right of the horseshoe were 2 rows of small round tables, only about half filled. Behind them was a banister with another row of about 8 tables against the wall. Beyond, to the rear of the room was a dimly lit area. There appeared to be about 25 more tables, scattered haphazardly about. Another banister lined the far rear wall with an evenly spaced row of tables behind. The right half of the back room was section 2. Only 6 of the tables were occupied, about 15 leering men. Go to it, Cheryl. Connie handed the young girl the tray. Introduce yourself, but don't tease them too much. Leave that to the others, they'll take care of them. Just be pleasant and take drink orders. If anyone gets too frisky and you can't handle them yourself, just tell Jack over there by the door and he'll take care of it. Connie pointed out Jack. Wayne looked over by the door and a tall, well-built guy in jeans and a red pullover was looking at them. He nodded in their direction. Jack knew, almost word for word, what Connie was telling the new girl that he had been watching since she came out of the back room with Adele. She looked a little younger than most. Maybe it was just that she was small and petite. She was definitely cute and that outfit didn't hurt her looks any. He already knew most of the girls, intimately. This one, he would certainly get to know better. Wayne felt as if his feet were glued to the floor. Adele had been watching the exchange between Connie and Cheryl with delight. He knew he was trapped and he played the part well. Adele had been particularly excited when she saw the look that Jack gave the boy. She knew what Jack was like, and if he was interested, other possibilities for fun might present themselves. Adele could see that Cheryl needed some encouragement. He was obviously afraid, and his hesitance could draw the wrong kind of attention to him. Before the situation became awkward, she leaned over and whispered in his ear. "Get going, sweetie." Guavouine had been an experience, and he had begun to relax a little with Laura by his side, but nothing could have prepared him for this. Wayne made his way to the back of the room. Two of the dancers were circulating among the customers in his section, soliciting for table dances or drinks. Both said hello to Wayne, and he responded as cheerfully as he could. He started at the first table he came to, checking to make sure the two middle-aged men had full bottles of beer. He moved on, and at the next table the three young guys wanted another round. Fortunately, their attention was fixed on the dancer that was shaking her nude chest and smooth G-string bottom. He received only a casual glance as they ordered. They wanted to order at the next table too, but these two old men were more attentive to him. "Would either of you like anything?" he asked nervously as he forced a smile. "Sure, honey. A Jack in water and a bud," said the nearest of the two. "You're new, aren't you?" "I just started tonight," Wayne answered as confidently as he could. The stares from the two grubby old men made his skin crawl. As he walked away, to get one more table's order, the old man that had spoken to him patted his pantied ass. If there had been anything but empty bottles and glasses on the tray, he would have spilled them when he jumped. It was humiliating almost to the point of tears. With a deep breath, he went on. Wayne would not turn his back on that one again. Wayne watched his timing from then on, trying to circulate only when one of the performers were dancing and returning to the bar between sets. The hours passed much more quickly than he imagined they would. Wayne quickly learned to avoid being handled by the lecherous men, turned on by the dancers' gyrations. Around 2 a.m., the crowd started to thin, and by 3, when it was announced they were closing, there were only a dozen men left in the club. Wayne cleared off the tables, wiped them down, and used the dirty bar rag to wipe out the ashtrays. Barbara and Tina were just finishing cleaning up when he went and settled up his tray with Connie. "You did well, Cheryl. I was a little worried about you, but you did fine." Connie was impressed. "Thanks." Wayne's smile was genuine. Connie was a really nice girl, and she had not gotten upset when he messed up one of the drink orders. He only made the one mistake, and he was actually proud of himself under the circumstances. Barbara and Tina joined them at the bar. Wayne had spoken to each of them a number of times in the last 3 hours, as they were having Connie fill their orders. They had asked questions about him, about Cheryl, and he had made up a story about just moving to Tampa from Orlando, looking for work. Adele had prompted him earlier when she did his makeup. Wayne had a handful of singles, his tips, and she gave them to Connie for larger bills. He was surprised when she handed him back 2 20s and a 10. Not bad for 3 hours, he thought to himself. That was what he used to get in a whole day at the little restaurant where he worked. He turned away from the others for a second and folded the bills and tucked them up under the bustier. He wanted to hide it from Adele, who was walking their way. It was cab fare. "Well, how did my little cousin do?" Adele asked as she walked up to the group. All 3 girls praised him. It was funny in a twisted sort of way. Wayne didn't want to waste any more time on idle chatter. He wanted to get to the phone and call Laura. Several of the dancers left as they stood there talking, and then Wayne noticed an older, very classy-looking woman come out from the back room. She was about 5 feet 9 inches and in nice shape. Her short blonde hair, cut in a boyish cut, took nothing away from her professional look. The tailored, gray plaid, skirt suit made her look very smart, very professional. She didn't look like she should be in a place like this. As she walked up to the small group, Wayne saw just how beautiful she was. Soft green eyes were set in a milky white complexion. Her petite, turned-up nose with her small mouth, turned up at the corners, naturally made her appear to have a fixed smile. After she acknowledged the others, she turned to Cheryl. "Hello, Cheryl, my name is Patty. I'm the owner's wife." She extended her hand to the girl. Wayne did the only thing he could, he shook it. He was careful not to give the woman too firm a handshake. Something about her intimidated him. It wasn't that he was standing in front of her in women's underwear, he had almost forgotten that for the moment. It was something else. He felt humble, almost inferior to her. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs." Her smile was warm and genuine. Wayne instantly, for some reason he didn't understand, wanted her to like him. Patty thought the girl's shy innocence was sweet. She liked Cheryl immediately. "All the girls just call me Patty, Cheryl. Connie told me you did very well tonight. Do you think you might like to work here full-time?" The question didn't shake the mesmerizing effect the woman had over him. He spoke without thinking. "Yes, I'd like that." It was as if he were in a trance, he would say anything he thought she wanted to hear. Adele was slightly shocked to hear him say that. She didn't let it show. It was adorable the way he looked up at Patty, a mixture of awe and reverence on his pretty, wide-eyed face. "Wonderful, come in tomorrow afternoon and we'll work out a schedule for you." Patty turned and left. Wayne stood staring after her, in a daze. "Well, come on, Cheryl. It's late and we need to change and get going." Adele's words broke the spell. "Yes, sure." He had forgotten he wasn't alone. Wayne followed Adele into the back room. A sick feeling returned as they stepped through the curtain. Trudy and Casey were waiting for them along with several of the other girls he had met out in the club, Lindsay, Sue and the girl, Peggy, that he had first seen when they entered the dressing room. The other girls had left. "I still can't believe it," said Lindsay. She, along with Sue and Peggy, had just learned about the charade from Casey and Trudy. They all had waited around for the others to leave. Lindsay was of average height, but that was the only thing average about her. She was the oldest of the girls, but still had the figure of a teenager. Long, naturally blonde curly hair outlined a seductress's face. Her deep blue eyes were the kind that held the imagination of men. She was every inch feminine. Lindsay was the one the new girls turned to for help, always willing to teach them the ropes. Most new girls learned to dance seductively with her instruction, and when they faltered, Lindsay was there to boost them up. Sue and Peggy looked at the boy from a slightly different perspective. They were both lesbians and had, secretly, been lovers for months. This boy, masquerading as one of them, was an affront, an insult to their sex. He deserved to be taught a lesson. Peggy, the stronger of the two, wanted to know, "What are we going to do with him?" Adele, Trudy and Casey had already discussed this. "He's going to spend the night in the storeroom. Tomorrow we'll all decide." Wayne spoke up, objecting ardently, "You promised to let me use the phone to call my girlfriend." "The pretty little girl has a girlfriend?" Sue asked sarcastically. "Calm down, Cheryl. It's after 3 in the morning. It's too late to be calling tonight. Have a good night's sleep and you can call in the morning. Don't make a big deal out of it." He was tired of being called Cheryl by these girls, but he still didn't want to give away his real name. He could just imagine them harassing him after he got away, if they found him. "I'll go make up the cot while the rest of you keep an eye on him." Adele wanted to make sure there was nothing in the room he could get hold of to make it possible to escape. No clothes of any kind, not even a sheet to wrap himself in. It was probably unnecessary because he would never be able to break out of the room. The door was solid and it had a deadbolt lock on the outside. In the cabinets that lined the walls were the club's liquor supplies, and Big Jim took no chances that someone might break in and rip him off. "Let's help him out of those clothes and find him something to sleep in," Casey suggested. Wayne didn't know which was worse, standing in the middle of them in women's underwear or stark naked, as he was now. The only thing they left him was the tape between his legs. Casey had scooped up the money that fell to the floor when Lindsay unlaced his the bustier. "You won't be needing that tonight, Cheryl. Here, he can sleep in these." Casey held up a white, lace-trimmed short camisole and matching flutter-tap pants that she used in her act. Wayne was grateful for anything that would cover him up, anything that would protect his frail ego from their stares. Adele was satisfied that the room was secure and made him comfortable. The others watched from the door as he lay down on the cot, a pink lace pillow under his head. "I'll be back in the morning and you can make your call," Adele assured him, patting him on the head before leaving, the deadbolt sliding in place behind her. Adele turned off the light from the switch outside the door, leaving the boy in total darkness. Wayne lay there on the cot, scared and apprehensive about what the morning would bring. He didn't trust any of them. He thought about the humiliation of having that disgusting old man grab his ass and the young guy that suggested Cheryl, sweet thing as he called him, sit on his lap. All the scary things that had happened to him over the course of the day finally overwhelmed him, and he could no longer hold back the tears. Wayne finally gave in to the feelings of despair and cried himself to sleep. About the same time Wayne was falling off to sleep, sobbing quietly, Laura was waking in the hospital. It took her a few moments to gather her thoughts, and even then Wayne was not on her mind. Laura's mother and father were at her side. It wasn't until Laura's mom asked where Wayne was that she remembered. "He's not here?" "No, sweetheart. They said they brought you in alone." She saw how distressed her daughter looked. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Laura was distraught. "Mother, Wayne must still be looking for me back there." "Not at this hour, sweetheart. Surely he's gone home by now." Her assurances were nonsense and Laura knew it. "He couldn't have gone home. We took my car and my keys are in my purse." "He would have gotten a ride from someone." "Mother, you don't understand. He wouldn't have asked for a ride. He'd be too embarrassed to even talk to anyone." "Why, honey?" She didn't understand. Laura pointed over to the chair in the corner. The chair that held the outfit she had been wearing before they took it off and dressed her in the hospital gown. "We were wearing matching costumes." The woman's hand covered her mouth in shock. "Oh my God, Laura. Wayne's walking around in Eber City, dressed as a hooker?" Apart from Jack, who was out front, the 6 girls were alone in the building. They huddled in the far end of the room, in the light of the dressing mirrors, to plot. Each one of the girls had a reason to dislike men, and this would offer them an opportunity to get back at least at this one. Adele and Casey were just sick of the way men treated them, and Trudy had been in love with a guy for 2 years before she learned that he had been sleeping around for the entire time they lived together. Lindsay had been a career woman thinking she was on her way up. When she finally realized that the male-dominated office she worked in just kept her around for show and their own enjoyment, she quit. The same week, her husband left her for his secretary. He took everything, leaving Lindsay with nothing. This was the only way she could find to pay her bills. Sue, a closet lesbian, has 2 kids and is in hiding from a husband that constantly beat her and the children. She had denied her real sexual orientation until she met Peggy, who was living in the same apartment building. It was Peggy that helped her put her life back together and showed her that it was all right to accept love from another woman. Now it drives her crazy to see men in the club put their hands on Peggy. Underneath Peggy's cool, pleasant exterior used to be a pressure cooker just waiting to boil over. Her relationship with Sue has changed all that. Peggy grew up under the thumb of an abusive stepfather. His two sons took the same liberties with Peggy as their father. What made it even worse for Peggy is that she had known since she was 13 that she was a lesbian. "You're not really going to let him go tomorrow?" Peggy asked. "Of course not, silly. We're going to make the most of this. Did you all hear how well he did tonight?" Patty's offered Cheryl full-time work. She offered to let him audition. Adele wasn't about to let it end with just the fun they had tonight. "I'll teach him to dance," offered Lindsay. "I'll come in early and do it when no one's around." "Haven't you forgotten a few things? He has no tits," Sue pointed out. Casey spoke up. "Dr. Hayes could fix that easily enough. That flaming fag would just love helping out a pretty little boy like Cheryl." "He'll want to get paid," Lindsay reminded them. "Implants are expensive, Casey. How do we pay for it?" "I think I'll be able to work something out with the good doctor. He does like young boys, and our Cheryl should be just his cup of tea." Casey was pretty confident of that. And if he wants to get paid, Cheryl has the prospect of a good-paying job. He can work it off. Adele liked that idea better anyway. "I'll call him first thing in the morning." Casey was anxious to see how quickly he could squeeze Cheryl in. "I'm sure that Casey, Trudy, and I can find enough clothes to fit him. We're all about the same size." Peggy was as anxious as Casey to see him humiliated. "We'll all have to work at feminizing him and making him comfortable with it." Adele knew that wasn't going to be easy. "That'll be fun." Sue was anxious to have a major part in that. "I already have 2 little girls, it'll be like raising another." Peggy didn't like to spoil their plans, but it just occurred to her, how's he going to be able to dance in a G-string with that tape between his legs? It was fine under the panties he wore tonight, but everyone will see it the first time he goes out there to dance in a sexy outfit. There was a moment's silence. First Adele looked at Casey, then Trudy, and each of the others turned to her as they all came to the same conclusion. "I'll ask him about that too. There must be something he can do." Casey smiled a wicked little smile.